Mr Rudd, thanks for your time.
Good evening, Brian. It's very good to be with you.
The international credit crisis is spreading, isn't it?
Well, Brian, this is not a time to introduce another panic.
What was that?
I beg your pardon?
What was that?
Nothing, Brian, no.
You sure?
Down. No. I mean, things will be okay. I mean, it'll be choppy, Brian, but I spent most of today in discussion with economists on this and related issues.
Oh, good. And what did they say?
Well, they say there are a couple of different ways this can play out, two scenarios as they see it, Brian.
Yes, of course they
do.
do.
So there are, plenty of options we're looking at.
How many economists did you speak to?
Two.
So you were presented with 4 different points of view?
Well, 4 initially, Brian, although the discussions went on for some time.
So there were plenty of point of views? That's what
Brian, I dropped stones as we entered into these discussions so I could find my way back out.
Was there any talk that perhaps we shouldn't be taking our advice from the market?
No, Brian, I got the impression the market's going pretty well.
But this crisis was caused by the market.
Well, that's not what I was told, Brian.
Well, who have you been talking to?
Market economists, Brian, 2 of them, as I said.
And what did they say?
Well, on the one hand, one of them said, Brian, that perhaps the worst of this is over. There's now some confidence beginning to manifest itself in the US market. And on the other hand, perhaps we'll all be murdered in our beds.
And the other economist?
The other economist, Brian, took the view that on the one hand, we're not quite sure how this is going to play out because perhaps what we're looking at here is a meltdown in the US lending market.
And on the other hand?
And on the other hand, Brian, our economy is decoupled from the US economy.
What does decoupled mean?
On the one hand, Brian, it means that our economy has nothing whatever to do with the US market.
And on the other hand?
On the other hand, we're in deep doggies, Brian, and that's why we're so worried about it.
So what do you think is going to happen?
Well, Brian, I'm meeting with the economists again next week to see how the cut in the US prime lending rate has...
going to affect the confidence.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I'll be doing that next
And when will
week.
you be meeting these economists?
On the one hand, I could meet one of them on Tuesday, Brian, and on the other hand, I could meet 2 of them on Wednesday, so probably the Wednesday.
Mr Rudd, if more Australian companies become casualties here, doesn't this mean that they haven't told the market the truth?
On the one hand, Brian, some of them possibly aren't going to know the truth until afterwards, and on the other hand, Brian, of course, the market is where we're getting our advice from.
Well, that's exactly my point.
Well, let's not worry about your point, Brian. Let's see if the market can survive this in good order. Obviously, if it can, we're fine.
And what if they can't?
Well, on the one hand, Brian,
oh, no, Mr.
I believe
thanks for your
that
time.
It probably will.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Mr.
And on
Rudd.
the other hand...
No, shame, we'll just cut
Can
it.
anybody see the windsock? Harry, look out the window, see if you can see a windsock. Well, because I haven't got up to the bloody other hand.